I beg you, just make it quick, the Apache girl said. The rancher froze. Then did the unthinkable. The twin suns were slowly setting over the red desert when the rancher finished repairing the broken fence. The long metal posts hummed softly with stored energy, keeping wild creatures away from his livestock. Dust moved across the plains like slow waves, glowing orange under the fading light. It was quiet, the kind of silence he liked. He lived far from the busy spaceports and crowded colonies. Out here, there were only wide skies, old machines, and memories he preferred not to think about. His name did not matter much anymore. Most people simply called him the rancher. He kept to himself, traded supplies once a month, and avoided trouble whenever possible. That was the way he liked it. A sudden sound broke the silence, a faint metallic buzz coming from beyond the rocks near the outer ridge. He froze, listening carefully. Years of living on dangerous frontiers had trained his instincts. That sound did not belong to animals or wind. Slowly, he reached for the long rifle resting against his shoulder. The buzzing stopped. Then he heard breathing, weak, uneven. He moved carefully toward the rocks, boots crunching on dry sand. As he stepped closer, he noticed marks on the ground, drag lines, small footprints, and drops of dark blood. Someone was hiding there. He stopped a few steps away and spoke calmly. "You can come out." "I don't shoot unless I have to." No answer, only silence. He took one more step. Suddenly a figure moved behind the rock, a young Apache girl, barely standing, her dark hair tangled with dust. Her clothes looked traditional but were mixed with strange pieces of advanced technology. Small glowing lines ran along her sleeves, flickering weakly like dying stars. She lifted a small blade toward him, though her hands trembled. "I beg you, just make it quick," she said softly. The words hit him harder than any weapon. She thought he was here to kill her. The rancher lowered his rifle immediately. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. Her eyes showed disbelief. She looked behind him, scanning the empty desert as if expecting more hunters to appear. "You came alone?" she asked. "Yes." She swayed slightly, struggling to stay upright. He noticed deep cuts along her arm and a burn mark near her shoulder, the kind caused by energy weapons. "You need help," he said. "No," she whispered quickly. "If you help me, they will find you too." He followed her gaze upward. High in the sky, almost invisible against the red clouds, a small drone passed silently. Trackers. His jaw tightened. Trouble had already arrived. He should walk away. That was the smart choice, the safe choice. But when he looked at her again, he saw more than fear. He saw exhaustion, pain, and the quiet acceptance of someone who had been running too long. He sighed. "Can you walk?" he asked. She hesitated, confused by his calm tone. "Yes, maybe." He moved closer slowly, giving her time to react. When she did not resist, he gently supported her weight. She felt lighter than she looked, as if she had not eaten properly for days. Together they walked back toward the ranch. The wind picked up as the suns disappeared below the horizon. Long shadows stretched across the desert and the temperature dropped quickly. He kept scanning the sky, watching for movement. "You shouldn't help me," she said quietly. "Probably," he replied. She almost smiled at that. The ranch house stood alone on a small rise, a mix of old wood and reinforced metal plates. Solar panels reflected faint light, and a small antenna turned slowly, searching for signals. Nearby, strange alien livestock moved lazily inside glowing fences. He guided her inside. Warm light filled the room, and the smell of simple cooking hung in the air. He helped her sit on a chair and began cleaning her wounds without asking too many questions. She watched him carefully. "You are not afraid?" she asked. "I've been afraid before," he said. "It didn't help much." She studied his face, trying to understand him. After a long silence, she spoke again. "They will come soon. I figured. They are not normal hunters." He nodded slightly. "They rarely are." She seemed surprised by his calm reaction. He finished wrapping her arm and handed her a cup of water. She drank slowly, as if unsure it was safe. "What is your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Isla," she said finally. He nodded. "Good to meet you, Isla." Outside, the wind howled against the walls. Somewhere in the distance, a faint engine sound echoed across the desert. Both of them heard it. Her eyes widened. "They found me," she whispered. The rancher walked to the window and looked out into the darkening horizon. Small lights moved across the dunes, fast, organized, and getting closer. He felt the old feeling return, the one he had buried long ago, the calm before conflict. He closed the window shutters. "You should leave," she said urgently. "Please, they only want me." He shook his head. They came onto my land, he said quietly. That makes it my problem now. She stared at him, unsure whether to believe him. He moved toward a locked cabinet and opened it. Inside were weapons far more advanced than a simple rancher should own. He selected one carefully, checking its energy level. You were a soldier, she said softly. Long time ago. Why help me? He paused, thinking. Because you asked me to end your life, he said finally. And I decided I didn't like that answer. Outside, engines grew louder. Dust rose as vehicles approached the outer fence. He handed her a small communicator. If anything goes wrong, stay inside and lock the door. What will you do? He smiled slightly, not a happy smile, but one filled with determination. I'll talk to our visitors. He stepped outside into the cool night air as the first vehicle stopped near the fence line. Armed figures climbed out, their armor reflecting the pale moonlight. A voice echoed through a loudspeaker. Rancher, hand over the girl, this does not concern you. He rested the rifle against his shoulder. Everything on this land concerns me, he replied calmly. Behind him, inside the ranch house, Isla watched through a narrow crack in the door. For the first time since running across the desert, she felt something unfamiliar. Hope. And outside, under the stars, the rancher prepared to do something he had sworn never to do again. Fight, the desert wind moved slowly across the ranch as the vehicles stopped near the outer fence. Dust rose around their engines, glowing under the pale light of the moons. The rancher stood alone outside his house, calm and still, his rifle resting against his shoulder. Across the field, armored figures stepped forward. Their movements were precise, trained. These were not simple bounty hunters. Their armor carried corporate markings, sharp lines, and glowing symbols that showed wealth and power. A voice came from one of their helmets. This is your final warning, hand over the girl. The rancher did not answer immediately. He looked past them toward the horizon, judging distance, movement, and escape routes. Old instincts returned easily, like breathing. She came to my land asking for help, he said finally. That means she stays. One of the hunters stepped closer, lifting a weapon slightly. You do not understand who you are protecting. Maybe, the rancher replied calmly, but I understand fences, and you're standing on the wrong side of one. The hunter signaled something. A small drone rose into the air, scanning the ranch buildings. Inside the house, Isla watched through the narrow crack near the door. Her heart raced. She knew these people. They did not stop once they began hunting. Outside, the rancher slowly reached toward a small device hanging near the fence controls. You step closer, he said quietly, and the fence goes from warning mode to defense mode. The hunter hesitated. Blue energy flickered faintly along the fence posts, showing he was not bluffing. A tense silence followed. Then suddenly another vehicle approached from behind the hunters, sliding across the sand. A tall figure stepped out, their armor darker, more advanced. This one carried authority. We are not here to fight you, the leader said through a clear external speaker. We only want the girl. The rancher tilted his head slightly. Funny, he said. Most people who say that arrive with guns. The leader ignored the comment. She carries something valuable, something dangerous. You cannot protect her from what is coming. Maybe not, he said, but tonight I can. The leader studied him carefully. You were military once, they said suddenly. Your posture gives you away. He remained silent. You left the war years ago, the leader continued. Why risk your life now? The rancher thought for a moment. Because sometimes doing nothing is worse, he said. Without warning, one of the hunters fired a stunned shot toward the house. The rancher moved instantly. He pressed the fence control. Blue energy flashed, creating a powerful barrier that deflected the shot into the sand. At the same time, automated defense turrets rose from hidden compartments near the ranch buildings. The hunters spread out, taking cover. You made the wrong choice, the leader said. Wouldn't be the first time, the rancher replied. Energy fire lit up the night. The rancher moved between cover points he had prepared long ago. His movements were efficient, controlled. He fired only when necessary, disabling weapons and forcing the attackers back without causing serious harm. Inside, Isla felt shock. He fought like someone who had survived many battles. One hunter launched a drone toward the house. The rancher shot it out of the air before it reached the roof. Sparks fell like small stars. The fight lasted only minutes, but it felt longer. Finally, the leader raised a hand. Pull back, they ordered. The hunters retreated slightly, regrouping near their vehicles. The leader stepped forward again. This is not finished, they said. You cannot run forever. Good thing I don't plan to run, the rancher answered. The vehicle slowly withdrew, disappearing into the darkness. Silence returned. He stayed outside for several minutes, watching carefully until the engines faded completely. Only then did he return to the house. Isla stood waiting near the door. "You could have died," she said. "So could you," he replied simply. She shook her head slowly. "You don't understand. They will return with more people, stronger weapons." "Probably," he agreed. She watched him closely. "Why are you doing this?" He placed the rifle down gently. "Because you were ready to give up," he said quietly, "and I've seen where that leads." She lowered her gaze. After a long silence, she spoke again. "They are not just hunters. They work for a corporation that wants the sacred canyon of my people. I carry the map inside my implants. Without me, they cannot find it." He nodded slowly. "So you're the key?" "Yes." "And what happens when they reach this canyon?" She hesitated. "I don't fully know," she admitted, "but my elders believed it holds ancient machines, something powerful enough to change worlds." He leaned against the table, thinking. Outside, the wind continued to blow, carrying faint echoes across the desert. "You can't stay here," he said finally. Her expression fell. "I knew you would say that. Not because I don't want to help," he clarified, "because this place isn't safe anymore. We need to move before they come back." He looked at her calmly. "You don't know the desert well enough to travel alone." For the first time, she allowed herself to feel relief. "You would come with me?" He gave a small nod. "Looks like I'm coming out of retirement." She almost laughed. He began gathering supplies, water containers, energy cells, tools, and weapons. Every movement showed preparation, experience. As he worked, she watched him with growing curiosity. "You really were a soldier," she said softly. "Something like that." "What made you stop?" He paused, thinking. "I realized fighting didn't always fix things," he said quietly. Outside, far away, small lights appeared again on the horizon. He noticed them immediately. "They didn't go far," he said. Isla followed his gaze. Fear returned to her eyes. "We must leave now." He nodded. Minutes later, they stood beside an old hover-rig, a large vehicle normally used for herding animals across the plains. Its engines hummed to life with a deep, steady sound. He climbed into the driver's seat. She hesitated for only a second before joining him. As the hover-rig lifted gently above the sand and began moving toward the dark desert, the ranch faded behind them. Isla looked back one last time. "You are leaving your home," she said. He kept his eyes on the path ahead. "Sometimes," he replied, "home is just the place where the next story begins." Behind them, the ranch lights disappeared into darkness as they drove toward the unknown, hunted, uncertain, but no longer alone. The hover-rig moved smoothly above the desert floor, its engines humming low as it cut through the cold night air. Sand drifted behind them in long silver waves under the moonlight. The ranch was far behind now, only a memory in the darkness. The rancher kept his eyes forward, hands steady on the controls. Isla sat beside him, watching the sky more than the ground. "They will track us," she said quietly. "I know," he answered. "Then why travel in open desert?" He gave a small nod toward the distant horizon. "Because the canyon walls interfere with scanners. If we reach the outer cliffs before sunrise, we have a chance." She studied him again. He always spoke calmly, even when danger followed closely behind. It made her feel stronger somehow. The night grew colder as they traveled. Strange rock formations rose from the sand like frozen waves. In the distance, lightning flickered inside silent storm clouds. After some time, Isla placed her hand against the side of her neck. A faint blue light pulsed under her skin. "They are scanning," she whispered. "I can feel the signal." "How far?" he asked. "Close." He increased speed slightly. Suddenly, a bright beam flashed across the sky behind them. Isla turned sharply. "They found us!" Several small scout ships appeared in the distance, flying low and fast. Their engines glowed white against the dark sky. The rancher's face remained steady, but his voice became firmer. "Hold on!" He pulled the hover-rig toward a narrow canyon entrance surrounded by tall stone pillars. As they entered, the path became rougher. Sand turned into cracked rock. The scout ships followed. Blaster fire struck the ground nearby, sending dust into the air. Isla grabbed the side rail. "They will destroy the rig. Not if I give them something else to focus on." He pressed a hidden switch. Behind them, small supply crates dropped from the back of the hover-rig and exploded into thick smoke clouds. The canyon filled with swirling dust and flashing sparks. The scout ship slowed, struggling to see clearly. The rancher guided the rig deeper between the cliffs where the rock walls rose higher and closer together. The scanners from the ships flickered and then faded. "They're losing signal," Isla said with surprise. "Canyon minerals block most tracking systems," he explained. "Learned that a long time ago." The ship circled once more but then pulled back, unable to enter the narrow path safely. Silence returned, broken only by the echo of the hoverig's engine bouncing off stone walls. After a while, the rancher slowed down. "We walk from here," he said. They left the hoverig hidden behind a large rock formation and continued on foot. The canyon walls grew taller, darker. Strange markings covered the stone, ancient symbols carved long before modern colonies existed. Isla stopped and touched one of the carvings gently. "This is my people's writing," she said softly. "We thought most of it was lost." The rancher observed quietly. He respected sacred places even if he did not fully understand them. As they moved deeper, the air changed. It felt charged, like a storm was building inside the rock itself. Isla suddenly gasped. The blue light under her skin grew brighter. "It is reacting," she said. "The site is near." Ahead of them, the canyon opened into a wide, hidden valley surrounded by tall cliffs. At the center stood enormous stone pillars arranged in a circle. They looked natural at first, but closer inspection showed smooth surfaces and faint glowing lines. Ancient machines hidden inside rock. The rancher scanned the area carefully. "No movement," he said. "But that doesn't mean we're alone." They stepped into the circle. The moment Isla crossed the invisible boundary, the pillars lit up with soft blue energy. The ground vibrated gently. A low hum filled the valley. She closed her eyes as information flowed into her mind through the implants. "It's waking up," she whispered. The rancher remained alert, watching the cliff edges. Suddenly a voice echoed from above. "Impressive." Both of them looked up. The corporate leader stood on a high ledge with several armed soldiers behind him. More ships hovered in the sky beyond the canyon walls. "You led us straight to it," the leader said calmly. Isla's face fell. "No, I blocked the signal." "You did," the leader replied. "But we predicted where you would go." The rancher stepped slightly in front of her. "You're trespassing again," he said. "This is no longer your land," the leader answered. "This belongs to Progress." The soldiers began moving down carefully toward the valley floor. Isla looked at the glowing pillars around her. "They want to use it as a weapon," she whispered urgently to the rancher. "But it's not built for war." "Then what is it for?" he asked. Before she could answer, one soldier attempted to touch a pillar. The ground shook violently. A shockwave pushed the soldiers backward without harming them, but making it clear that the system would not allow unauthorized access. The leader frowned. "Activate the override devices," he ordered. Several machines were placed on the ground, sending pulses toward the pillars. Isla cried out as pain shot through her implant. "They are trying to force control." The rancher reacted immediately. He fired precisely at the override devices, disabling two of them. Sparks flew across the valley. The soldiers returned fire, but he used the pillars as cover. "Isla," he shouted, "what does the system need?" She focused through the pain. "It needs a guardian's command, a true intention." "What does that mean?" "It reads emotion," she said breathlessly. "Purpose. It was made to restore damaged worlds, to heal them, not control them." The rancher understood. "Then show it your purpose." She stepped forward into the center of the circle despite the danger. The pillars brightened, responding to her presence. The leader raised his weapon. "Stop her!" Before the soldiers could move, the ground shifted. Sand lifted into the air, forming a protective barrier around Isla. Wind roared through the canyon, stronger than any natural storm. The machines placed by the corporation short-circuited and shut down. The rancher kept the soldiers from advancing, firing carefully to keep them back without causing serious harm. The valley transformed. Cracks in the dry earth began closing. Dead plants near the canyon walls straightened slowly as energy passed through them. The system was not a weapon. It was a restoration engine. The leader stared in disbelief. "This could terraform entire planets," he muttered. "Yes," the rancher said firmly, "but not for you." The wind grew stronger until the soldiers could barely stand. The leader signaled retreat. "Fall back," he ordered. Ships above struggled against sudden air currents. One by one, they withdrew from the canyon. Within minutes, the valley was silent again. The energy settled into a soft glow. Isla slowly lowered her hands. The protective barrier faded. The rancher approached carefully. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded weakly. It chose me, she said, not because I am powerful, but because I want to protect life. He gave a small, approving nod. Good reason. She looked around at the restored plants and healed earth. This place can change many worlds, she said, but only if used carefully. He studied the canyon. They won't give up. I know, she turned to him. You could leave now. They came for me, not you. He looked toward the canyon entrance where the enemy had disappeared. I already left once, he said quietly. Didn't like who I became after. For the first time, she saw not just a rancher, not just a soldier, but someone who chose to stand. The twin suns began rising above the canyon walls, lighting the valley in gold. The sacred site was awake. And the real battle, not just for survival, but for the future of many worlds, had only begun. The first light of morning touched the canyon walls, turning the stone golden. The air felt different now, calmer, alive, as if the land itself had taken a deep breath after a long sleep. Small plants pushed through cracks in the ground where nothing had grown before. Isla stood quietly in the center of the circle, watching the ancient pillars glow softly. The energy inside them moved like slow waves of light. The rancher walked around the edge of the valley, checking for danger. He did not trust silence after a battle. Silence could hide many things. They will come back, he said finally. Isla nodded. Yes. They will not forget what they saw here. He stopped near her. Can you control it now? She looked at the pillars thoughtfully. Not control, guide. The system listens to intention. It protects life but does not obey greed. That's good, he replied. Because greedy people are usually the loudest. She almost smiled. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Then a distant sound broke the calm. Engines, many engines. The rancher turned immediately toward the canyon entrance. Dark shapes appeared in the sky, larger ships this time, heavier, more dangerous. They brought reinforcements, he said. Isla's expression tightened. They will try to force access again. Dust fell from the canyon walls as ships lowered toward the valley. Soldiers descended using cables and jump packs, forming a wide circle around the sacred site. The corporate leader stepped forward again, his armor scratched but still strong. You have delayed us long enough, he said through amplified speakers. Step away from the pillars. The rancher moved slightly in front of Isla. I think we already said no. The leader's tone remained calm but colder now. This technology belongs to civilization. You cannot hide it forever. It belongs to the people who built it, Isla answered firmly. And they made it to heal, not to dominate. The leader raised a small device. We studied the energy you activated, he said. If we cannot take control directly, we will dismantle it piece by piece. Machines rolled forward, carrying heavy tools designed to break through stone and energy shields. The rancher watched carefully. Fighting directly against this many soldiers would be difficult. He leaned closer to Isla. Can the system help without hurting anyone? He asked quietly. She closed her eyes, listening to the energy around her. Yes, maybe, but I need time, he nodded. Then I'll buy you some. He stepped forward into the open, lowering his weapon slightly. You want to talk? He called to the leader. The soldiers paused. The leader tilted his head. You have something to say? Yeah, the rancher said calmly. You keep saying this is about progress, but progress without respect always ends badly. The leader sighed. You speak like someone who has seen too many wars. Maybe. Then you should understand, the leader continued. Power changes history. With this machine, we can terraform dying planets, feed billions. Isla stepped forward slightly. And who decides which planets deserve life? The leader did not answer immediately. The silence told her everything. The rancher slowly raised his rifle, not aiming at anyone, just holding it steady. Here's the thing, he said. You think you're saving the future. But you're just trying to own it. The leader's patience ended. Move in, he ordered. Soldiers advanced. At the same moment, Isla placed both hands on the ground. The pillars brightened, sending waves of light through the valley. Wind rose suddenly, swirling around them. The ground shifted, not violently, but enough to make the soldiers stumble. Machines powering forward lost balance as the terrain changed beneath them. What is happening? One soldier shouted. The system responded to Isla's calm focus. Sand rose into curved walls, forming natural barriers that separated attackers without harming them. Energy fields appeared like transparent shields, blocking weapons but causing no injuries. The rancher moved quickly, disabling weapons when soldiers tried to push forward. He fired only at equipment, never at people. The leader watched with growing frustration. You cannot protect this forever, he shouted. Isla's voice remained steady. I don't need forever, I only need you to understand. The pillars pulsed again. Suddenly, the barren ground beyond the canyon began changing. Dry soil turned darker, richer. Small green shoots appeared, spreading outward like living waves. The soldiers froze, watching in disbelief. This is what it was built for, she said. Healing. Even the leader hesitated, seeing the transformation. This power, he whispered, it could change everything. Yes, she said gently, if guided by care. The wind slowed, the valley became quiet again. The rancher lowered his rifle slightly. You see, he said. Nobody needed to get hurt. The leader looked at his soldiers, then back at the growing plants. For the first time, doubt appeared in his posture. You would share this knowledge, he asked slowly. Isla nodded. With those who respect life. Not those who try to take it by force. A long silence followed. Finally, the leader gave a slow signal. Stand down, he ordered. The soldiers lowered their weapons. We will withdraw, he said, but others will come stronger than us. I know, she replied. The ship slowly lifted into the sky, leaving the canyon once more. When the last engine sound faded, the rancher let out a quiet breath. Well, he said, that went better than I expected. She laughed softly, the first real laugh since they met. Days passed. They repaired small damages and learned more about the sacred system. The valley continued to grow greener, slowly returning to life. One evening, as the twin suns began setting, the rancher stood at the edge of the canyon. You could leave now, Isla said gently, walking beside him. You have done enough. He looked at the horizon. Maybe, he said, but the ranch is gone and someone needs to keep watch here. She smiled slightly. Then stay, not as a soldier, but as a guardian. He thought about it, feeling the warm wind against his face. Yeah, he said quietly, I think I can do that. They stood together as the sky turned orange and gold. The desert no longer felt empty, it felt alive. And for the first time in many years, the rancher did not feel like he was running from his past, but walking toward a new future.